I quit my six-figure job 2 months ago. I just want to talk about what I learned after quitting, some things that I wish I prepared for, and how I can escape the 9 to 5 with something that will truly make me happy. First and foremost, obviously you're going to want to have some plan going into this. If you know you're going to quit, you want to make sure that you have enough money. I think that's pretty obvious. You want to have a plan. You want to know how much you have saved up, what your monthly expenses are. If you live like this, how many months can you survive without working? What's like a backup plan if worst case scenario you do have to end up getting another job, or you definitely don't want to quit with no plan, because trust me, there's stages to this. The first stage is just relaxing is super nice, right? You don't have to wake up at a certain time. You can lay in bed for another hour or two. It's like the honeymoon phase, and then you get to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, this is pretty nice, but what's next? My bank account's slowly depleting. What am I going to do next? And then you get to the point where I'm at right now, which is like, oh shit. I'm kind of in the middle of what's next and oh shit, because I took so long to execute on my plan. My plan was pretty simple. I knew I had maybe 5 to 6 months where I could be unemployed before I started getting really low on the savings. So my plan is to basically create content until January 1st. I want to set up a foundation. By no means am I expecting to survive off of this by January 1st, but I at least want to build the foundation. So basically the first 2 months were fantastic. I was basically doing nothing, waking up at noon, door dashing twice, 3 times a day, staying up till 3 a.m., sometimes getting drinks. And I did that for 60 days, and I used a lot more of my savings that I planned for. Thing is, I had a plan. I knew that I shouldn't be spending all this money, even though I did. You need to be stricter on your budgeting. That's something I wish I took more into consideration. I wish that I just set like a limit, right? I pay off all my bills and then I'll have $150 or something, just some random number that you can't go over because you're not working. I was just seeing my savings just slowly deplete, and it was pretty depressing. I mean, I worked pretty much the whole entire year for that, and all of my progress is being deleted. Not only did I not stick to the plan at all, I probably gained a little bit of weight. I spent way too much money on DoorDash and other miscellaneous things like drinking and whatnot. Those 5 to 6 months that you thought you had are now going to be 3 to 4 months, which is what's happening to me right now. And there's all kinds of reasons why someone may quit, whether it's, like a toxic work environment, bad management, low pay, no growth, burnout, or just wanting something better in your life. All of these are valid reasons, but I urge you to think about what it is that makes you want to quit, and think, if you did get a raise, maybe you got a 20% raise, would you still quit? If you had a new manager, would you still quit? If one of those toxic coworkers that you work with left, would you still want to quit? If you answered yes to any of these, then I definitely think that it's probably time to quit. Make sure that you're not going into the deep end with no floaties. And I'll tell you, when I did quit, it was a very strange feeling, because I was leaving the highest paying job that I've ever had in my entire life. It was a mix of, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? The reason I thought that it might have been the biggest mistake of my life is because a year ago I was working at Taco Bell. Within 5 months, I was able to land this six-figure job. So, I've never had a job that paid this much ever, and I don't know if I can ever get it again. The dream of being able to work for myself and be happy is always going to be more impactful to me than making a little bit more money. Just being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and the possibility that it could take over is worth it to me. If you want to know how I went from Taco Bell to a six-figure job in 5 months, or why I quit the six-figure job, which was a sales job selling software to doctors, both of those videos will be linked in the description. I'm just talking about why I quit, how I justified it, what my mental process of thinking was when I was making these decisions, and how it led me here. Also, it felt very freeing at the same time. I was going home at 10 o'clock, which was weird because I usually don't get off till 3:30. I was getting into the Uber going home, and the Uber was asking me like, "Oh, did you get off work?" And I said, "Yeah, I did, but I quit." And we had this conversation about, life is too short to be doing something that doesn't bring you happiness. If you're not happy with what you're doing, I think that's a huge green flag on why you should quit. It's a really deep question, and I think a lot of people our age face this, where, as we're transitioning in this weird technology phase that we're in, there's a lot of ways to make money online, and ways to start your own business that are not so, like brick and mortar. You don't need a lot of money to start your own business. You just have to do a lot of research. I truly believe too that you can monetize your hobby or passion in any way that you want. There's so many different ways or avenues, directions that you can go to monetize this. For me, if I didn't know how to monetize my passion yet, I would probably try to look for anything that could scale, anything that's passive, anything that can make money while you're sleeping. And what I mean by scaling in a job is when you go to a regular 9 to 5 or salary, the only way you can make more money 90% of the time is from like a bonus, overtime, putting in more time basically. And that's entirely possible, but is it consistent? Will it happen over and over? Do you even like what you're doing? Something that is truly scalable isn't restricted by time. Just an example of this, let's say you're making $5,000 a month at work. You've been making that for however many years. How are you going to get to 6,000? You have to get a promotion, you need a bonus, something like that. Something that's scalable, like creating content or creating your own business. How can I go from 5,000 to 6,000? I'll just post another video. I'll make a better video. Scaling is just not having a ceiling, not having a boundary. For example, if you were to sell clothing and you wanted to scale it, how do you do that? Purchase ads, you get more traffic to your website somehow. Of course, there's a lot that goes into it, but there's no ceiling, which is what I'm trying to get at. For the 90% of the people like me that was working and had a ceiling, I feel like it's destined to lead to burnout unless you really enjoy the job. And of course, there are jobs where there are no ceilings, for example, like commission based, but how do you get that scaling factor with something that you actually enjoy and are happy about? That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to build the foundation for. And if your plan is to go back to the 9 to 5, that's totally fine. Some people are just happy with consistency, and there's nothing wrong with that, having the safety net. And in which case you would eventually invest, hopefully, and that would be your way out of the 9 to 5. But for me, I just can't see myself doing this forever. Of course, I'm gonna have to get another job here pretty soon. But the difference between when I quit and now is, one, I will have a foundation built for something that can take over eventually. Also, I'll be healthier. I'll be probably 20 to 30 pounds skinnier. I won't be wasting my money on vices. I'll probably be saving a lot more money actually. For me, it just feels like a little reset. I'm going to have to get back to the real world pretty soon, but these are just some things that I wish I knew, some things that I wish I planned for a little bit better.